Welcome back to Elevator Paso, guys. Today we're going to be speaking with Victoria Bruce. Victoria is a bariatric marketing consultant, and she's going to be telling us a little bit about what it takes and who qualifies to do this surgery. How are you, Victoria?
I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.
You bet.
Tell us a little bit about what you do and a little bit about this surgery.
So, the thing is that I came about this position and into this world myself personally because I had bariatric surgery 7 years ago. I really didn't know anything about it until I came to a crossroad. I myself had come to a weight where I had tried every diet under the sun, and someone introduced me to this. They'd gone through the bariatric surgery and they became my mentor. I learned about it and I realized that after trying everything I could to lose weight, this was, as I came to find out, the most evidence-based approach to treating obesity and long-term maintenance for severe obesity. And so there's two types of bariatric surgery that locally are performed here. That's the gastric bypass and the sleeve. And so that's what I went forward learning about, and I chose to have the gastric sleeve. And for me, it's been incredibly effective. 7 years ago, I had a sleeve, and I lost 150 pounds in 6 months. And of course, it's not a magic bullet. I wish I could say it was. But I've been able to keep that 150 pounds off, a little up and down, of course, but with the tools that I have available to me now, I've been able to keep that off. And that's what I am able to help people learn more about now in the position that I'm in, is that with that empowerment and the education that we can provide, they can learn what their options are.
So before we get to that, though, tell us who would be a candidate for this.
Absolutely. So the qualifications for bariatric surgery are pretty specific. You're going to be looking most time for patients that would have a BMI over 35 with one health condition present. The insurance is really what qualifies that, and so those health conditions usually range from diabetes, sleep apnea, high blood pressure, and oftentimes some patients don't even know that they have some of those, like sleep apnea, but they can come in and visit at the Hospitals of Providence where I consult. They can come in and have a free seminar, visit us, one of the 3 seminars we have a month, and get into the program. We can also send them for a sleep study and have them tested to see if one of those health conditions is present, if it is indicated that that might be a case. If they have a BMI over 40, though, oftentimes insurance will say that that BMI alone will qualify them for surgery, and many insurance companies are now seeing that the benefit of this surgery is so tremendous that they are including that in their benefits. So it's to their benefit to consider this.
Well, without a doubt, it is something that is life-changing. But tell us about who, or once they are good candidates, they qualify as candidates, how do they prepare themselves for this?
Honestly, education is key, and something that I did prior to my surgery and that I really encourage patients to do is to learn as much as they can prior to going in for surgery. They'll be meeting obviously with the dietitian with a program. They'll be going through classes with their bariatric program, but there's great support online. You're able to find support groups. I run one that I started back when I had my surgery. It's called Team Victoria, and it's an international Facebook group. It's a private group. You can go on there and just talk with other patients and see what their experience has been. Do that research yourself to really learn what life's going to look like afterwards. I always compare it to like learning a brand new language, right? Because after surgery, you're going to be making some really significant lifestyle changes.
Right.
And the best thing that you can do is be prepared for that. And so as patients go forward through this process, sometimes they are required by their insurance company to do a 3-month supervised diet or a 6-month supervised diet. Take the time that you're doing that to really equip yourself with the skills necessary to make this long-term permanent lifestyle change.
So again, before we get to the post-treatment of this, let's talk a little bit about the differences of the two that you've mentioned. Can you briefly explain each one to us?
Sure. So the vertical sleeve is the one that I had, and sometimes people can misunderstand and think that when they hear the word sleeve, they think that there's a foreign device put in. And in case that's actually not what it is, it was actually called that because just the way that the stomach was shaped after they did the surgery looked like the shape of a sleeve. But the surgeon actually goes in and with a surgical stapler that cuts and resects the stomach, they make the stomach 80% smaller, take the excess stomach away, and it's a restrictive surgery. And so what it does is it restricts the amount of calories that a patient is able to eat, and it's about the size of a banana. So that's how much food I can eat. You go out to eat with me, you've seen, I don't eat very much, but what is helpful about that is I'm very mindful as to what I choose to eat now. And so it's something where it doesn't affect necessarily the calories that you're eating, so you're very careful, but you just eat less, and so your portions are smaller. The second surgery is the gastric bypass, and that was for very long considered the gold standard. It's the one we have the longest data on to follow, but the sleeve has now passed it nationally in the most prevalent surgery that is being done. But the bypass is still the one we have the longest data on, and that one is where they make the stomach actually the size of an egg, and then additionally they go in and they will shorten the intestinal tract. So it's considered both a restrictive surgery and a malabsorptive, because when they shorten the intestinal tract, you have a restrictive, meaning you eat less, but you also absorb less calories. And so that's one, it shows a higher remission in diabetes, and so you're having a slightly higher rate of weight loss of your excess weight. So oftentimes we tell patients, have a consult with your surgeon and really discuss your options, but oftentimes we're gonna tell them it's your decision to make when you come in which one is gonna be best for you, unless there's some other health conditions present, in which case the doctor will advise you.
And so with a Hispanic background, I tend to think that, if you're not eating tremendous amounts of food, you're not being nourished.
Of course.
The first question that comes to mind is, if your stomach is so small and you could only eat such little amounts, is your nutrition still healthy, obviously?
This is a perfect question, and especially for me, I'm 6'1", and so I would be the perfect person to answer this question. And the truth is that we are very much on top of our patients' nutrition. At our center, you have access to the dietitian for life. Whether you kept that insurance or not, as long as we have a building there, you can come in and meet with the dietitian, because we want our patients to be successful long term. That's our legacy. And so it's important that they understand all of this prior to and afterwards. Now, when it comes down really to the long-term diet, we need them to understand that supplementing in the beginning is going to be very important. So protein shakes, vitamins, and supplements, and their water are critical, so they are meeting those nutrients. Over time, they're going to transition more into whole foods that they're going to be eating. But again, like I said, when you're only sitting down to eat a meal and you're eating that small portion, what you eat now is going to be much more important than before, when you would fill up your whole plate and you're at the carne asada and you're like, well, let me put the frijoles charro and everything else on there. You might consider what you eat first, and the carne might be the first thing you go for. And so I've learned even myself that I'm very picky about what I eat first, and oftentimes, even on Thanksgiving, I put all the things on there, but I don't get to the sides because I get full with them. And I tell patients, because with me, I had done so many diets, I knew them. And I had well-meaning family that were like, Victoria, if you would just try this, and if you would just do this. And I was like, I've tried it though, it doesn't work. And I was always hungry, and it was so hard going from diet to diet to diet and having that hunger feeling. And I can truly say that after weight loss surgery, when I sit down for a meal, I'm satiated. After every single meal, I finish it and I feel like I've had Thanksgiving dinner, which is a wonderful feeling, to not be driven by that hunger all the time. If someone doesn't understand that, they really can't relate. And so I can say that in 7 years, I have my labs done every year now. In the early first year, you have them done every 3 months, 6 months. We follow our patients very closely, but for 7 years, I've had my labs done, and I've never once had them come back and had any deficiencies. In fact, oftentimes they're like, Victoria, your iron levels are very high. Are we good? And I'm like, well, I've been supplementing. They've actually pulled back some of my supplements. They're like, you're doing so well probably with your nutrition, you don't need it.
Yeah.
So I do often try to assuage people's fear, because I think we're sometimes, our perspective is a little skewed, because one, as a society, we're not used to seeing people at a healthy weight. Here in El Paso, we have a 69% obesity rate.
Right.
And nationally, the rate is very high. So it's hard for us to begin to shift and see what a healthy portion size is, and then see people at a healthy weight, and we come over and the family's like, are you okay, are you healthy? And like, this is me, healthy and strong. Yes, exactly. I'm sure you've heard that from you look sick, you've lost weight, what's going on? And truthfully, we need to be supportive of our family members. And what's interesting, we've seen with our patients, is that as one family member begins to get healthy, oftentimes the whole family can come on board, and that's the most amazing thing.
Now it sounds like with without a network of sorts for the post process, it's easy to kind of slip off and bounce back into weight. Tell me about everything that is done post the operation, the surgery, so that you're able to maintain.
Absolutely. I believe that post-operatively support is critical. It is something that, for me, that's really why I have the online support group that I run. And for me, I can say that since my surgery, I have never found myself not plugged into some type of support group, whether online, in person. I think it's critical whenever you have a shared experience that, you know, you are in sort of a unique group, that you find your community. Because when you have that, it takes away the isolation. And when you find others that can understand what you're going through, it really helps to be able to talk those things out, share your experiences. So we actually have a support group at the Bariatric Center at 4532 North Mesa every third Wednesday of the month. I'll actually be there tonight. And it's great to see patients come in, right? I mean, they're coming in 6 days out of surgery, walking in, and I'm like, I don't know that I was that brave, but they're there and they want to come in and they want to share. You know, I'm already down 10 pounds and it's exciting to celebrate. We have patients that are 10 years post-op and they come in and they're like, hey, I've had some regain. I need some support. And so I call it like the church of weight loss surgery, because I'm like, everyone's welcome. Come back at any time, because we're there with you every step of the way.
Yeah.
But then you've also got the dietitian that's available. We have the psychologist on staff. And so we have considered all the different steps you're going to need. We have relationships with local gyms, because we know that in addressing obesity, a chronic disease, and when you consider the word chronic, that means we know that it comes back with a vengeance. And so we know that we have to address it like a toolbox approach, right? And just like the weight loss surgery is a tool, and if you leave that tool in the toolbox, it's not going to work. We've got to use every single one of these tools in conjunction to address this chronic disease.
So in a minute, I want to ask you about what the most impactful memory you have of the first time you noticed yourself in such a change. But first, I want to clarify the fact that we are recording this on a Wednesday. So when she says that she'll be there tonight, it's not on Saturday. Yeah. Tell me about that first impact, that first time you noticed yourself be transformed.
You know, there were so many different, what we call them in the community, NSVs, non-scale victories for me, that I experienced after my surgery. Being able to walk the grocery store without pain in my back. Really, for me, there's two that stick out. One was right after, and another was actually years later. So I'll share the two with you. One, I had, at the point of deciding for weight loss surgery, gotten to a place, my children were actually 7.5 months old and 2 the day of my surgery.
Oh, wow. And
I'd gotten to a place where I felt trapped in my own house. I didn't feel like I could take my 2-year-old son to the park, because I knew if he ran away, I wasn't able to catch him anymore. I was 335 pounds at my highest weight. And so going into surgery, I remember so vividly sitting in the hospital room, scared. I'd never had surgery before. My whole life was my first one. And I realistically didn't have the support of my children's father the day of surgery, or my mother. I was there scared, and I made a video for them, like crying, like, I love you, babies. Like, I was so nervous. But fast forward, and this is maybe 2 years later, I'm at the park with my kids on the street over on Dakota Ridge, right? And they're there. Well, I'm on the other side of the park, and I see my daughter. She's now just almost 3, and she's chasing after her ball as it rolls towards the road. And I took after her at a full sprint, and I caught her arm right as her foot stepped into the road. And I remember feeling like this rush of emotion come over me, because I knew in that moment that if I had not had the surgery and I'd not lost the weight, she would have been hit by a car. And my entire life would have changed. So I knew in that moment that I didn't just do this surgery for me, I had done it for everyone that I loved. Because we take care of everyone. I've yet to meet anyone that has come through the program that doesn't tell me, Victoria, it's so hard for me to think of taking time off from work, or to consider, you know, that I'm going to take time for me, because I care for everyone else. I'm taking care of my mom. I'm taking care of my kids. How do I take time for myself? And I tell them, you know, when you're on the airplane and they say, put on your air mask first before you help the person next to you? I said, this is exactly that. Because we can't keep taking care of everyone else if we don't take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that was the first one. And the second one was actually this past year, took the kids to California for the first time on spring break to an amusement park. We went to Legoland. And we were standing in line. and it was us, and all of a sudden I realized, I was like, kids, this is your first roller coaster. And they were like, yeah, Mom, we're so excited. They're 7 and 9, they were 6 and 8 at the time. And it dawned on me that this was my first time going on a roller coaster since my weight loss surgery. I hadn't been on a roller coaster since college.
Wow.
And I was standing there, and of course it would happen that right in front of us was a gentleman getting on the ride with his 2 sons. And this man struggled with his weight very severely. And I watched as the attendant tried to help him pull down the buckle. And it gets me upset now because I watched, and everybody's waiting for the ride to start, and they're trying to help him. Eventually he has to get up and he has to move, and they tried to get him to another row because I guess it had more accommodation for his size. And I remember feeling like that would have been me with my children. And eventually he was able to get on the ride, but it was such an aha moment for me again, where I went, this is exactly why I did this. And it's hard for me at times because I want to run up to people and they have no idea who I am, and I've got this like reverse thing now where they're just like, who's this 6'1" blonde? She has no idea what I'm going through, and I want to like pull out my before picture and be like, we know each other. But it for me was just such a testament to the fact that this surgery has completely changed my life.
Yeah.
And it can change others. My sister had the surgery a year ago. She has lost over 100 pounds. Her husband had the surgery last month, and he's already down over 45 pounds. And so obesity is a very personal thing to me. It is something that runs in my family, and I just know for a fact that this surgery absolutely is changing lives. And nationally, it is a statistic that only 1% of the population that qualifies for surgery is having it. So
Why is that?
tells
Insurance?
me insurance is a huge barrier, and education. People are unaware of the benefits of it and how safe it is. There is only one surgery that is safer than weight loss surgery, and it is an appendectomy. So if we can educate the population as to what their options are and empower them with that, I believe that we will have people that are more equipped to make decisions for their health.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Victoria, thank you so much for sharing all those wonderful stories. It's great to hear. It's amazing to see your transformation. I believe the work that you're doing is transformative for our community, and I encourage you to keep that up. That's very, it's a resource that most people should be aware of. Before we let you go, is there any last words that you want to tell our audience, or?
Well, I would say that if it's something that you're considering or struggling with, or even if it's not something that you would be thinking of weight loss surgery, I know that many of us at times struggle with our weight. I had regain in year 3, regained 45 pounds while training for a half marathon with patients.
Wow.
And so, like I said, there's no silver bullet. But if you're looking for support, you can find me on Instagram, Team Victoria Tribe. I am big on tribe. I believe in support. Don't have to do it alone. And if it's something where you are within your practice or a business needs support in trying to reach patients and better understand obesity as a disease, you can reach out to me as well. Like I said, bariatric marketing consultant. It's something where I feel with Providence, they've been so progressive in trying to help providers better understand how to equip their patients with that education. It's something regionally that we're doing here. I go out with our physician referral managers. We talk to our in-network providers so that they can understand how to have healthy conversations with their patients about obesity, so that their patients will have the opportunity to ask for referrals for weight loss surgery. And it's something that nationally isn't necessarily happening yet. And it's exciting to see that in El Paso, of all places, we are the first ones doing that. And so, yeah, it's something that I think is definitely long overdue. But hey, you know what? We're making progress.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.